This week's episode of The Republic is brought to you by Audible. For a free 30-day trial and to receive a free audiobook, just head on over to audible.com/gamebreaker.
Gamebreaker TV.
What's up, everybody? I'm Gary again, and you're watching Game Breaker, and this is The Republic episode 155 for September 19th, 2013. Coming up on today's show, the class rep Q&A is taking a hiatus. BioWare broke space, and iOS 7 is the greatest. All that and more, but first, joining us from massive.com is Mr. Larry Everett. How are you, sir?
I'm pretty good.
Excellent.
Nothing really exciting going on right now, but I'm good.
There's a rogue Yoda hand coming in from the screen.
That's right. Yes. He's actually in pieces, but he's just hung up. He's actually supposed to be like a wall decal, but I'm being lazy and I just stuck him on the wall.
There you go. Just stick the whole decal on the wall.
Yeah,
not even peel it off and put it together.
Not even peel it off. It's just stuck on there.
Good job, Larry.
And Laura Williams, how are you?
I'm great. Hey, guys.
It's modern art, chat room says. It's modern art.
Yep, it totally is.
All right, first up this week, about those class rep Q&As. Yeah, about those. We've been pretty vocal about the problems of how it's been done so far. But I do think we all agreed that it was positive that they were doing it. And the communication was good. The players like that. We weren't always so positive on the dialogue was good, but kind of how it was working out wasn't so great. But after we got we've got the Shadow and the Mercenary answers next week, so we'll get those next week.
Yep.
It's going away until 2.5 is what they're saying. What's the reason? What's the reason that they gave that they're gonna shelve it for now?
Well, first off, I mean all the questions have been answered. So like all the top 3 questions have been answered from every advanced class, which is, that's the number one thing that they wanted to do. They wanted to get all those questions out there and get all those questions answered. And so that's number one. And then secondly, they in 2.5 they are going to do some reworking and rebalancing of classes. So it really anything that is asked after this point is kind of moot anyway because they're going to revamp it. So I think that I think it's okay that they're doing this.
I could definitely see where they're coming from. Do you think it's do you agree, Laura? Do you think it's the best idea to kind of shelve this for a little while?
Well, I think it's a good idea that they are bringing them back, and Eric Musco did say that we are going to be seeing some changes coming from the suggestions that came from the question. So I think that's a great idea. I kind of wish that they would keep going with it just because one of the other reasons that they gave was they said that with the next set of classes that they expected that it was basically going to be the same questions being asked. But I know for snipers, we had a whole list of like 13 different questions that they wanted answered. And I would assume that the other classes also had other questions that they wanted to ask, but were limited just to 3. So I wish that even if they are going to take these and go on, that they would have still continued to get some other questions asked.
And I mean, I know this is supposed to be for class questions specifically with the class reps, but I don't know. Would it have been so far of a stretch to ask for some sort of like larger overall game sort of questions until 2.5? Like keep it going, but like maybe not totally just stick to the class rep stuff and maybe just, talk about just bigger aspects of the game and things that affect all players. There's still a lot of questions that could be asked.
Yeah, I kind of agree with that actually. The way that Sony has done it in the past with their representatives, they have had individual class representatives that whatever their classes happen to be, warriors and whatnot, and they would also have aspect representatives. So you would have somebody that that dealt with crafting in general.
Mhm.
You also had somebody that dealt with. I'm trying to remember some of the other aspects.
What
Like
is any of the trades?
PvE.
Any of the trade skills,
PvE
PvE, PvP, bosses, like boss mechanics. I mean, there's so
rating,
many things you could.
Yeah,
There's so many things you could get into here, but I guess that wasn't really the scope of why they set out when they started this Q&A, though. That is, they did start this out to do class questions.
I'm wondering if these questions weren't specifically for 2.5. I'm wondering if they didn't set if they didn't put all these questions out so that the developers, class balance guys, could look at these questions and go, oh, these are the exact things that the players are looking at, and so when we go to rebalance in 2.5, we'll know what things we should be looking at specifically. Because as developers, I know that sometimes there is a wide degree of separation between what you see as a developer and then what the customer sees, and vice versa. The player there's a huge degree of separation between what the player sees and how the developer perceives things, and sometimes it's good, especially if you're planning on doing, like, say, a class balance in the future, to understand what that other perspective is, even if you don't necessarily do everything that's in that they say. But yeah,
the thing is, I can play the other side of the fence for a second and just sort of say, but I understand 2.5 is going to be a large class balance update, but it's an MMO. Like, class balance goes on forever. So it's like, at 2.5, when the Q&A starts back up, they're like, oh, we're going to postpone it until 2.7 because those are going to come in 2.7. And isn't it? Really, I'm exaggerating there, making fun of it, but really, isn't class balance like an ongoing thing that happens for? I guess they were afraid that almost every answer they were going to have from now till then would be, that's coming in 2.5. That's coming in 2.5. We're fixing something in 2.5. I guess that's what they wanted to avoid. But I'm just wondering, that post 2.5, aren't there still going to be class balance changes constantly sort of happening? I don't know. It just seems a little odd to me to just completely say we're just not going to talk about the changes. Or the question, answer your questions about the classes.
I think they're hoping that once 2.5 hits and people have had a chance to kind of play around with some of the changes that they've made based on feedback that they received, that can open up to, all right, what's some other things that maybe we think need to be looked at, or what's some other concerns.
Okay, maybe that's fair enough. So maybe they open up for X number of weeks to help them get ready for their next big balance. I don't know. I think the open Q&A dialogue could have gone a little bit farther than just the class balance stuff.
Well, one thing that Eric Musco did say later on in the thread after announcing that they were going to be postponing the next 8 series of questions, he did say that he would be going through all of the class forums and compiling all of the questions that the classes had put together and then submitting a large report to the development team. Based on what people had said, so some of that will go out as well.
How long has this been going on now? How long is it? I've lost track. How many weeks has it been since the Q&A?
First questions were submitted on August 2nd. So
it wasn't really that long of a run.
A month? Yeah,
it was a pretty short run. Why did they kick it off when they did then? Like, timing just seems a bit odd that they kicked it off in August to basically just have to stop and start. Is it just a lack of foresight?
I'm not going to say sort gate.
I don't know if it's a lack of foresight or anything along that line. I honestly think it was done for the specific purpose of getting the feedback on 2.5. And at the time that it was, I don't want to say that they, it was kind of underhanded, but it kind of was, in the sense, if they're looking to just get feedback specifically on 2.5, they could have. I think they could have come out and said, "Hey, we're looking to rebalance everything. What would you guys like to see?" I think that might have been a little more direct and forthcoming. But I could be wrong. Maybe the community team had no idea that they were going to do a rebalance in 2.5. Maybe they decided.
Surely they had to know this. Surely they had to know that they were going to put this in the pipeline.
Well, it depends on it. Well, no, obviously they're in constant state of rebalancing the classes. That's kind of, I mean, like you said, that's just the way MMOs are. But rarely do you see a large revamp of a bunch of classes, which I don't think they're going to completely revamp it, combat upgrade kind of revamp, but I'm sure you'll see a good chunk of changes in 2.5. So
how far away is 2.5? Where are we at?
We don't know.
Really, 2.3.
It's going to be
well, 2.4 is supposed to come out October 6th.
Yeah, so it'll be
somewhere between the 1st and the 6th. So if they go from 1 month from that, yeah, probably the beginning of November, early December at the latest would be my guess.
It's pretty far off, a couple months.
So
what were to happen? Because that's a long time. So we're calling a couple months now, at least a month and a half, almost 2 months maybe. What happens if the class reps leave? Do they have to go through a whole nother voting? I don't know. I don't mean to be like negative.
I don't know if they're going to go through voting or if they'll just
Yeah.
somebody else that's active on the forums, kind of like they did for Scoundrels.
Yeah, exactly. We've already kind of run into that situation with the Scoundrel because after this Sork gate, if we'll call it that, the Scoundrel representative just left. He left the game. He says, "I'm out," and Eric kind of just picked somebody that had been active on the forum before. I'm sure there was other criteria that I'm just not aware of, but it was somebody that was active.
What about?
And he did comment that they would be checking in with and keeping in touch with the class representatives. So if it looks like people are bailing out, they'll make sure that there is somebody there to represent.
What about like this? Have they talked about any sort of replacement possibly for the community interaction they were looking to gain with these Q&As?
Well,
has anything been announced?
They said that they were going to do sort of more frequent little blogs once it gets closer to 2.5 so that people can know what kinds of upgrades upgrades to expect. So similar to what we saw in 2.0. I don't know that it's going to be quite that detailed because I don't think it's going to be massive changes the way it was with McKeb coming in. But still, communication is really, really good. And thank you.
What would you guys like to see when they bring it back or whatever they do? Like, now that you've seen sort of, this is like what our second round of like them sort of doing the Q&A thing. I mean, anything you guys would like to see them work on a bit more? A general weekly Q&A, more blog posts, more dev posts, a foot rub from Damian Schubert. What do you want?
I would like the foot rub.
Foot rub.
All right,
yes.
So there you go.
Foot rub and maybe like, I don't know, maybe just let people submit questions more than once every 3 months or so. Like more constant or little updates or communications, I think would be good.
I think the coolest thing that they've ever done and I don't know that they necessarily have somebody in the development team now that can do this, but Georg Zoller used to do just amazing posts in the forums. He would just, I am assuming what would happen is that Georg would talk to Stephen Reed or whoever was in charge at the time and say, "Hey, I'd like to say this in the forum." You write it up, and then Stephen Reed goes, "Oh yeah, cool," and then drops it in there. But yeah, it was. I think that kind of communication was an amazing time, really, in the history of the game, and you really felt like you knew as a player what was happening with your specific class or with combat overall. And it'd be really, really nice. Now, I'm not saying that it's probably a time crunch now. They're probably under, because they only have one guy doing class balancing. So they're probably, he doesn't necessarily have as much time to get on the forum, but it'd be really nice to see somebody that can communicate the way that Georg was able to.
He was a fine forum poster, wasn't he? That Georg.
Midnight, not a sound from the pavement. Has the moon lost her memory?
All right, I'm probably gonna get ripped by YouTube for that already. So those are my 2 seconds. Of that. All right, I want to talk a little bit more about this really quick. I'll tell you guys about Audible. If you guys check out Audible, I want to hook you guys up with a free audiobook and a free 30-day trial. All you got to do is go to audible.com/gamebreaker. Just use that URL. Go over, make an account, download the app, put it on your iPhone. Yes, it works on the iOS 7, which I'm loving, by the way. Works on the Android. All those devices. All you got to do is just download the app and download a free audiobook. They have some pretty awesome Star Wars, The Old Republic books. They've got Revan. They've got Book 4, Annihilation, Deceived, Fatal Alliance, Red Harvest. A bunch to choose from, and any one of these Star Wars, The Old Republic books could be yours right now just by going over to audible.com/gamebreaker, signing up, making an account, and start downloading one of these books tonight. What's your favorite out of these, Lara? Have you read them all? I think you were missing one last we spoke about these books. I think you hadn't read one, right?
I actually have not read Annihilation, the latest one.
Annihilation, right? All right. How are the other four? Which one do you recommend the most?
Well, my favorite one it's kind of a toss up to be
Sorry to put you on the spot.
Between Revan and Deceived. The other two are kind of Red Harvest isn't that great. That was probably the worst out of them all.
Well, if you haven't checked out any of them, definitely check out Revan or Deceived.
Deceived.
Deceived was the first one that they did, right? Was that
no, actually, the first one they did. I think it was the Fatal Alliance was actually the first one. But
actually, that was Deceived came out first, I think, on audio though. This one here.
It's possible, yeah. But the Deceived was like the one that is quintessential to the story of Tor, because it deals directly with Darth Malgus.
Their dull black eyes blinking against the snow and ice. He pulled back on the ion engines and slowed still further. A yawn forced itself past his teeth. He sat up straight and tried to blink away the fatigue, but it was as stubborn as an angry bantha. He'd given the ship to the autopilot and dozed during the hyperspace run from Volta, but that was all the rack he'd had in the last 2 standard days. It was catching up to him. He scratched at the stubble of his beard.
Check it out. Go over to audible.com/gamebreaker. Like I said, make your account. Just make sure you use the URL audible.com/gamebreaker. Get that app on your device and start downloading a free book today. All right. So like I said before, we'll be getting the Shadow and Mercenary class rep answers. That's going to be next week. We'll get those next week. What do you guys? All right, let's go over this. What do you guys think of the Shadow questions? Shadow.
I thought the tank one was pretty good. Since that was
my favorite.
I think the biggest question for both Shadows and Assassins. They wanted to know.
What was the question?
They asked, could you elaborate on the mathematical models used to relatively balance the tanks with respect to efficiency and spike damage? Are there any planned future improvements to mitigation or cooldowns that will rebalance our performance? Just because Shadows and Assassins tend to be the spikiest tanks right now.
This sounds like was that written in by Ed Park? Sounds like an Ed Park spreadsheet question. It sounds hard.
The basic premise of it is the way the Shadow tank works is it really works on cooldowns, to be perfectly honest, because the actual cooldowns and procs, and because the actual armor that a Shadow or Assassin wears is light armor, so it really doesn't mitigate a lot by itself, and so therefore when a Shadow gets hit hard, if there's no cooldowns or procs or anything like that on that Shadow, there is a major drop in health points, and which makes it incredibly difficult on a healer, let alone the Shadow himself. But it makes it really difficult on a healer, and it's difficult to maintain a good level of hit points, and survivability is just it becomes really difficult, especially in like nightmare mode and those kinds of operations. Especially ones that what is the? I'm trying to remember. Which is the one that that Mike doesn't do now? He lets Drade do. as a jug. There's one of the bosses that we hit that he's just like, I absolutely can't handle this on a regular basis. I forget which one it is. Was it the? Was
no.
it wasn't, I don't know. Anyway,
you guys when you do this big class change.
Thrasher. Mike is saying Thrasher.
Thrasher. Okay, there we go.
You think there's a possibility that they're gonna like? Are you guys worried at all that they might like seriously drastically change classes in a very big way and abilities and things like that to get this in balance, or do you think it's just a matter of some reworking of some of the numbers and keeping pretty much the way the system is intact and how everything is working?
I think it depends on the class. I mean, I kind of feel like assassin tanks will maybe have a slightly larger changes than maybe say snipers, just because their changes came originally from stuff that was going on in PvP.
I mean, how drastic of a change do you think is going to be across the board for all the classes? I mean, do you see some really big, huge, sweeping changes of how the classes play in 2.5?
I don't know that it's going to be sweeping in the sense that it's a complete overhaul the way we sort of got with 2.0.
Are we going to call it the NGE?
I hope it's more than just like, well, I don't know that I want to call it the NGE. But
I sure hope not.
Yeah, I just see them honestly, because most of the issues with the classes are very specific and very minute, and so I mean in the overall scheme of things, and so therefore we'll probably just see a few changes here, a few changes there, but I think we'll see the biggest change or the most effective change, hopefully, in the Shadow and Assassin, because one of the, and that'll be the most difficult to balance as well, because in PvP they're overpowered as far as their damage mitigation is concerned, because you're talking quick bursts of defense that they do really well at that. Whereas when you're talking in PvE, you need a consistent amount of damage mitigation and defense. So therefore, that's going to be the hardest to balance. How do you balance this quick burst of defense and make that normal, nominal, and then against this other long-term defense that's needed? So that's going to be the hardest one to balance, I think, and that's probably where we're going to see the most changes.
Laura, tell me a little bit about the mercenary questions. What do we got going on there?
They were really wordy. Their rep
Really
wanted to write
wordy?
a novel. Let me see they were okay. I didn't think any of them were super, super crazy. They had one that was talking about rating viability. Can you please comment on how you feel both Merc DPS and heals stack up against their raid spot competitors when it comes to what they bring to the table for progression rating? More specifically, would you consider taking a Merc in your raid group over a sniper for DPS or an operative or sorcerer for heals if faced with the option? So that was pretty good, because I think right now, at least in terms of healing, Merc healers are considered pretty weak.
Anything to add there, Laura?
Yeah, no, I think that the mercenary healers, or excuse me, the mercenary questions probably, even though they were wordy, yes, they were extremely wordy. However, I actually liked the way that they were laid out. He
did a beautiful job on it.
Oh my gosh!
But it was like writing a novel, and we would be here for 2 hours if I had to read everything.
But basically, what he did is he put the question right up front. He said, "Here is the question. Here are some of my thoughts about this question, and here is a huge explanation of where we came up with this question." Which, what I think all the other representatives need to take note, and when the next one comes around, do something like this, because it's really, really great.
All right, let's move on. Next up, did 2.3.3 really break space? What's going on here? What happened?
People run into asteroids that are now unavoidable, and your ship explodes. Or you can get an escort mission, and your escort dies, and you still get completion credit.
I'll go for the second one any day.
Did these bugs just pop up randomly, or were they like doing stuff in space in the patch or something?
You know what? I got to be honest. I have done exactly 2 space missions ever because I
Nice. Hardcore
So
space.
I don't know
addict.
if that's been there for a while or if it had suddenly cropped up because they were messing around with something.
Have you heard anything, Lar? Where these came from? Were they fixing anything in space?
No, well, I mean, the only thing I can think of is maybe they're messing around with
repoing.
space.
Space Garage is sitting around a repo.
Yeah, that's right. That's probably exactly what it is. Yeah, the only thing I can think of really is maybe they're messing around with space a little bit, maybe hitboxes or something. When
Maybe the super secret space project broke it.
Yeah.
When is that coming? Do we know anything about that? Any word? Any word on that?
No word yet.
No word on the super secret space project.
Nothing.
We're gonna hold out for that. That's probably gonna be like what, next year? Probably.
I'm gonna say January. That is gonna be my guess.
What do you guys think is gonna happen to the current space game when that comes out?
Hopefully, it's gonna go away and it will be replaced with new
Larry
space.
says Larry wants delete. Hit the delete key on PvP and then hit the delete key on the current space program.
And
there you go.
before people start getting all upset saying, "Oh my God, you're saying to take away more content," I gotta be honest. I don't know anybody that does space at all, unless it's simply just to get their comms or they want something specific off the vendor, and then they get it and they never touch it again. It's
called Justin Lowe. Maybe he used to love the space stuff, didn't he?
Oh, I don't know what his deal was with that.
He loved it. He just ran it night and day.
I thought regular dailies were grindy. These, oh my God, these are horribly grindy. Yeah.
I mean, is there any real reason for them to pull it out? I mean, I wouldn't say it's beyond them. I mean, people are probably like, there's no way I can pull them out, but they pulled out ranked war zones because no one was playing them. So, I mean, do you think there's still a large player base actually still doing the space stuff, though, that we're just not really fully aware of?
I think all 3 people that are still doing space deserve to have it.
All right. I mean, would it be confusing for a lot of new players to have this on-rails sort of space aspect of the game, and then all of a sudden you've got this free-form flight PvP space program?
I think they're going to get into that, and they're going to be like, "This is awesome. I'm never doing missions for that other garbage again."
Do you think they'll gut it? How much would it affect how much would it affect like quest structure? Because that was tied
not at all.
No,
not at all. When it like early on, and especially in beta, you could actually earn a decent amount of XP by doing the space missions. But now the amount of XP and whatnot that you get from space missions is so nominal, and you're so past you level through them so fast that they're worthless. Really, I can't think of a reason other than those comms, maybe you want one of the outfits that comes with it. Why you would ever do a space mission?
Chatham says space or chat bubbles are coming to space only. I don't know if that's true. Probably not. That's never going to happen. That's never happening.
Chat bubbles?
Yeah, it's not happening.
Yeah, no, I've totally written it off now. I've got half of it. I got sitting in chairs.
There you go. Yeah, but for how many seconds?
No, actually, no. They have the emotes now. They can.
Oh, the emote chairs. You're right. You're right. Yeah. This is kind of an annoyance thing. Anyone in the middle of the HK47 quest line has had their progress reset with the latest patch. I hope you guys aren't that slow, are you?
No.
We've already got him. Yeah,
all right, that's good. That's good. But this was an unintentional bug, right? There's no warning from BioWare. Something must have just slipped through.
Well, what happened is when you're doing HK, you have a mission to go to the ship called the Theoretica. And there's a bonus mission in there that is basically to collect data pads of the crew and kind of see the story of what happened and why the ship's basically abandoned. And the bug was that if you died on the ship, you were unable to interact with any remaining data pads that you hadn't already picked up. And I know this because I died in one of the rooms due to suffocation because I couldn't open the door. So,
what did I?
Yeah, there's only one mob in there, and it's at the end. And yeah, you can. It's this creepy, awesome puzzle. It's very Event Horizon, and yeah, I got trapped in this room, and there was no air, and I died of suffocation.
All right. Well, if you guys haven't logged in in a while and you were in the middle of the quest line, there's a patch, unintentional bug, no warning, and your progress has been reset. Pretty annoying, but how long does that quest line actually take to go through?
It depends on how lucky you get at finding the HK parts. Because once you get done with that, it's take this scanner and go into the world and drop it to try to find this part. It's like getting a metal detector, and you would just have to go until you find the metal piece. And some people get really lucky and they can find it in 5 minutes, and some people have spent 6 hours on one planet looking for one part.
All right, well, if you got
and
reset,
two
you've
of them
lost
you
some
have to get
time.
in flashpoints.
If you did, for whatever reason, it did reset and you did lose your parts, those kinds of things, you can put in a ticket, and it is known that you can get those things restored. So they are fixing. I mean, the GMs are fixing it, making things right for the customers. I mean, they're actually doing a pretty decent job, from my understanding. So,
all right,
even
that's
though
good.
there was a
Send
bug,
in a ticket. Send in a ticket. All right, cool. They're on top of it. So it looks like, I mean, I guess there's a few bugs in 3.3. Any interesting changes you guys want to mention before we move on? Micro binoculars and Seeker Droid, they saw some improvements, right?
Yeah, you are supposed to find less junk when you use the Seeker Droid. So that's awesome. One of our guildmates said that he found a lot of crafting parts and a higher drop rate on the speeder parts. So if you're putting that together, thumbs up.
that's actually really good. The speeder parts were, I mean, I just going around and randomly trying to find all these parts is pretty insane in and of itself, and I'm glad that they've made it a little bit easier for everybody.
You guys think they're going to integrate some of those things like a little bit more into the quest lines going forward?
Definitely the micro binoculars.
The macro binoculars actually have on Tessina right now. You use the macro binoculars for one of the Oricon quests, right? Yeah, and it's I see those things being used all the time. They're an integral part of the game now.
All right, next up, with the release of iOS 7 on the iPhone, it seems like mobile authenticators are having some issues. I would like to say that Star Wars: The Republic is not the only one out there as well. I know Blizzard got hit a little bit with World of Warcraft as well. You guys use physical authenticators, correct?
Yes.
Both of you, yes. So what's the problem with the update, though? What's going on with the mobile? Is it just the mobile app that's broken?
Yeah, but basically, this is not Tor specific. In fact, a lot of people that have apps out there are having to rewrite it and then having to go through Apple again to repost it or whatnot. So I foresee this being pretty quick fix, but there are some issues.
Yeah. So I think the advice here is, if you do have an iPhone and you did not update yet, go remove your mobile authenticator first, since you still have access to one that works. Remove it, and then update to iOS 7 and then add it back. So I don't know what else I mean, if you've already upgraded to iOS 7 and the authenticator is not working, I imagine you should just contact customer service, put in some sort of a ticket to get your authenticator removed from your account.
You should be able to remove it from your account
through your account page.
Through your account page on the website now, because of the way that they've restructured the
Are you actually able to do it though without access to the mobile account or the mobile app? Because I had a similar situation exactly happened with World of Warcraft on my phone. When I switched phones, I had a phone that broke, got a new phone, but it took me about 48 hours to go through it. But they had to ask a bunch of security questions to actually make sure that I was really the person who I said I was. And they really went through a pretty rigorous test, and then they would remove it for me.
I believe you can do it through the website. The chat room saying you can do it through the website, but if for some reason, it honestly does not take them very long, especially if you know your security questions and those kinds of things.
Well, check that. Yeah. You guys should check it, because I agree. If you have access to your, I'm not saying with Tor, I'm just saying in generalization right now. If you have access to your mobile authenticator, to remove it, yes, can usually always be done through the website. In the event that you have no access to that app, could possibly be that you have to just contact them. So check that out, because I know I had to actually contact them and speak to somebody. And no one really is to blame here, except just the fact that, hey, Apple is to blame. No, don't blame Apple. It's good. Don't blame Apple for anything.
Updates.
I love updates. Mike Chapman's been hating the update all day. All he does is he's got a list. He's got a running list. Larry, got anything? Any Dreadmaster lore that you wanted to fill us in on this week?
Oh wow! Actually, I did in the last Hyperspace Week, and I talked about the Oricon stuff, and the Dreadmasters are. And spoiler alert, everybody! If it's been almost 2 years. If you haven't played through this yet, then why? But anyway, you you free these guys on you are the cause of the all this trouble.
You're an
with the
Empire
Dreadmasters.
player.
Yeah, that's right. These guys, if you're an Empire player, that's right. The Dreadmasters were originally like the guys that would lead the charge of the Imperial fleet. They actually, what they would do, similar to the way Bastila, if you play KOTOR, Bastila, what she would do is she would unite the Jedi and the Republic with battle meditation. Well, the Dreadmasters do like the opposite of that. They cast fear and dread into the enemy, and to the point to where they cannot function anymore. And so, therefore, that's what the Dreadmasters do. And unfortunately for the Dreadmasters, Jedi Master Caden, he actually was able to capture them. He found out which ship they were on, and he captured them and put them on Belsavis. But they were then freed by the player on Belsavis, and then now they're free roaming the galaxy. And I don't want to give away any of the spoilers for Oricon, but if you have not played through Scum and Villainy, play through Scum and Villainy, because the story that happens on Oricon is directly related to the stuff that happens with the Scum and Villainy operation, and it's actually kind of cool, especially if you're a Sith, and it's got a really nice ending on it, and I am really looking forward to playing this on live. If you're a story kind of person, don't go to Test Center. Wait till it gets on live, seriously, because it's really, really cool.
Words from Larry. Wait. All right, Larry Everett. Follow him on Twitter at Shadow, SHADDOE. And, of course, go over to Massively and read the Hyperspace Beacon, his weekly column over at the Massively. Laura Williams, you can follow her on Twitter at VoidMynx. It's VoidMynx. And, of course, right here on The Republic every now Thursday at 6. So, new day, same time, Thursdays at 6. Come on over to the live show. It's lots of fun. And we will see you next week for some more Star Wars The Old Republic's. It's a series of tubes in space.